Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament, looking at the New Testament church as we've been doing here in chronological order, and we're still in Acts today. We're in Paul's second missionary journey, and today we're going to look at him preaching in Thessalonica, and this is Acts 17, 1 through 9. And so, looking at this, Paul and Silas then traveled through the towns of Amphipolis and Apollonia, and came to Thessalonica, where there was a Jewish synagogue. As was Paul's custom, he went to the synagogue service, and for 3 Sabbaths in a row, he used the scriptures to reason with the people, explained the prophecies, and proved that the Messiah must suffer and rise from the dead. He said, "This Jesus I'm telling you about is the Messiah." Some of the Jews who listened were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, along with many God-fearing Greek men and quite a few prominent women. But some of the Jews were jealous, so they gathered some troublemakers from the marketplace to form a mob and start a riot. They attacked the home of Jason, searching for Paul and Silas so that they could drag them out through the crowd. Not finding them there, they dragged out Jason and some of the other believers instead and took them before the city council. Paul and Silas have caused trouble all over the world, they shouted, and now they are here, disturbing our city too. And Jason has welcomed them into his home. They are all guilty of treason against Caesar, for they profess allegiance to another king named Jesus. The people of the city, as well as the city council, were thrown into turmoil by these reports, so the officials forced Jason and the other believers to post bond, and then they released them. And so, again, another short one today, looking at this. And so this Amphipolis was a Roman military post that was located along what's called the Egnatian Way in the northeastern part of Macedonia. And so Apollonia was named after the Greek god Apollo and was situated on that same way. And then so Thessalonica offered a starting point for the ministry because it had a Jewish synagogue. They wanted to go to places that had Jewish synagogues. And so Paul, he was able to preach there for 3 weeks, right? 3 consecutive Sabbath days, explaining the scriptures and showing their fulfillment in Jesus. So again, it took them 3 weeks to kind of explain everything to them and work them through the whole process. But what we see once again, right? The enemies of Christ, faith, saw it as a disruptive threat, which is kind of ironic because then that's what they become. They gather some troublemakers and they accuse Paul and Silas of causing trouble by disturbing the peace and committing treason against Caesar, which was a very serious crime because it threatened, they were basically saying, hey, he's threatening the stability of the empire. But you look at this, the charges didn't hold up under scrutiny, so the officials, they released them after Jason and them had posted bond. And, Luke here contends again that Christianity was politically harmless to the Roman Empire. He's trying to show that, and should therefore be recognized as a permitted religion and not subject to a political attack. And so, again, as we look through this, and like I said, these are small small sections of scripture that we're looking at here, and it's just Luke gives small little brief descriptions of his preaching and teaching as they on their second missionary journey, and some of the resistance they find, some of the converts that they have. Obviously, Jason here was a convert, and so we see the Jewish response to this every time is to incite some type of violence, usually, and which is honestly it's kind of ironic because if we watch today, right? If we and I'm not trying to get political or anything, but we want to see we see patterns in history, but we see today it's like there's certain groups that if they don't agree with what you're saying, instead of being able to have civil conversations, especially in some cases, like in a lot of cases, when like Paul here was able to prove that what the scriptures say, what the Old Testament pointed to about the Messiah, especially when you're able to prove with logic and reason things, the other sides tend to, whenever their beliefs or some of their things are shattered or disproven, it's their only option is then to incite violence or to riot or to cause problems like this. I've seen where the other day where it's like someone was just trying to hold a meeting, and a certain group came in and all they did was dance around and scream at the top of their lungs just so the meeting couldn't take place. And so this is we may think, hey, well, look at the way people behave today. This is nothing new, right? This is nothing. It's the same thing. These people came in and started causing and disturbing the peace, so Paul couldn't teach anymore. Paul and Silas couldn't teach anymore. And so it's human nature. Sometimes you don't see something you like, you don't hear something you like, and so your first response is going to be, well, let me scream and yell because I can't disprove it. I can't do this, so I'm going to switch to name calling and screaming and yelling. And so we see this a lot with Paul and what he's doing. And as Christians, when we're spreading the message, we should not be surprised when we run into this type of resistance either, right? Maybe people don't behave this way, but I've seen it. We see it today, and so, but it could be other things. But we should expect to run into resistance as Christians when we try to spread the message of Christ. It's just natural. Jesus talks about that. Jesus ran into all kind of resistance, so we should expect the same thing and shouldn't be surprised by it. And so, again, we just see this again. This is another short one, but we just see again the pattern of Paul going to the Jewish synagogues first. Obviously, he converted some Gentiles, some Greeks, in that process as well. But we'll continue this process through Acts, and then we're actually getting ready to go into Thessalonians, because after this visit, after Paul converts, and starts the church in Thessalonica, he has to leave abruptly. We're going to look at that, and so he writes them letters, and we're going to look at those letters and see, his praise and concern for them and things like that. So it's a really interesting group of letters that we're going to dive into and study next here. I think we start them this coming up week. Today's Saturday. So I think we start them in the next couple days. So as always, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and do that, because that's what allows us to continue to get our message out. And it also allows you to get the notifications when we publish these every day. So you see them. We try to publish them early in the morning as we can. If you find this useful, find this helpful, please share. That way, we reach more people. But more than anything, as always, I appreciate everyone for taking the time to watch.